Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Serena, and today I wanted to do a step-by-step kind of a tutorial on how to use balanceit.com. So a lot of pet parents really want to be able to provide the best nutrition for their pets, and it can be daunting going into a pet store or searching online of like, what should I feed my pet? I think that we probably underestimate the value that nutrition has on behavior. And so part of my behavior consultations is asking, what do you feed your pet? But not only that, are there any clinical signs of gastrointestinal upset? And that could be right down to just like excessive flatulence, belching, regurgitation, excessive swallowing, bilious vomiting, and food aversion. If a dog goes up to the bowl as if they are hungry and they sniff the food and then they back away, it could indicate that potentially they're nauseous. Okay, so let's get into this. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go to the Balanceit website. So when you go to balance.it, or you can go balanceit.com, you'll get to the same place. It's essentially will bring you to their main website here. So the easiest thing to do is just click on recipes. Once you go to recipes, you're going to determine, do I have a cat or a dog? Let's just use cola as an example. So cola, I am in Canada, so I am going to go a kilogram, and she is 2 years, and she is a spayed female. So for a 40 kilogram 2-year-old spayed female dog, she requires about 1,700 kilocalories per day. Now that will vary depending on your activity level, and this is for a dog who has ideal body weight, because if your dog does not have ideal body weight, you're going to need to adjust that kilocalories. Now, if I had an overweight dog, then I could type in here, overweight. Let's see, here we go. So if I'm looking for a weight loss, for example, then I can punch that in there. Let's pretend we are just going to do maintenance. So we want this to basically be AFCO dog maintenance. You're going to scroll down, and if your dog has allergies and you want to choose a particular ingredient, you can hit the let me pick ingredients, but we'll just start with the basic here. So build the recipe. And usually there's a little dog walking. There he is. And he's going to show us some recipes here. Okay, so the first one is a adult diet that is turkey based, so you can say turkey. It also looks like a sweet potato. So a few different ways to kind of look at this is we can go directly to view recipe. The other thing that you might want to do is you click this see nutritional profile. Okay, so this recipe says nutrient profile. We're going to scroll down, and near the bottom there it is. Basically, if I do not supplement this diet, it's going to be deficient in these ones. So it has like basically a red, a green, and I guess a beige color. So this diet would be deficient in iodine, calcium. It has an inappropriate calcium to phosphorus ratio. The B12 vitamins. Now there's been some posts lately about potentially a zinc deficiency contributing to behavior concerns, so that's one. The other thing that we can see with behavior is magnesium, but this one's got enough magnesium, and selenium, these ones are all good. Okay, so what we are going to need in order to balance this diet, so if we're going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to do turkey breast, it says canola, but you can adjust these sorts of ingredients if you like. We won't talk about that at the moment. And then this is by supplement. And so this is your vitamin and mineral supplement that you have to add to the diet in order to balance it. So if you are one of these people who are like, no, I don't want to use supplements, then you're gonna struggle to find a balanced diet, because there's not going to be the ability to just like, oh, let's just add this and add that and da da da. So this is your, like, I want to actually choose the ingredients. So I'm going to say, I'm going to choose pork because it's one of the least allergenic. So very often, like, our dermatologist will say, hey, try pork, and she's a dermatologist, so she knows what she's doing. But that being said, because they don't use a lot of pork in commercial diets, and pork loin is one of the, how do we describe it? One of the least costly. Now let's say like, I want to add an egg in there or something like that. So let's go like egg and pork loin as our base protein. Carbohydrates, this is for fiber because we want to make sure that our dogs have some fiber. But let's say they have a gluten sensitivity, so we don't want to do wheat necessarily, but let's say brown rice. We'll just choose brown rice for fun. And fats. And so I always suggest to go with omega-3 fatty acids. So this one's the algae omega. This one is the omega. You can also use the Wellactin. These are the Wellactin products. Let's just choose Nordic omega. That's fish oil. And let's say, for example, we're just like, well, I need to make sure that we have enough vitamin A and iron, so maybe we do spinach. Vitamin A would be carrot, and I really like squash as a thing. Let's do squash. Okay, so carrot, spinach, squash. And you don't have to add any fruit, but if your dog likes fruit, then maybe you want to add some fruit. That is perfectly fine. And let's go with blueberries. A lot of people like blueberries in their diets because of antioxidant treats and enhancers. Look at those. So you could add some other fun things, like I think this is Parmesan cheese, peanut butter is another one that people might like. I'm just going to leave that blank for now. Now, when I get to this point and it has this little button here, use human supplements only. And the reason that you might want to do human supplements only is that, let's say we build a recipe and it's only deficient in a few vitamins and minerals, then we might want to use this button here. So let's click that. And get recipe. So our little doggy's going to do its little run. The recipes, or the ingredients that I chose is basically said, we can't balance a diet using that. Okay, so this was the adjusted recipe that requires human grade supplements. So as long as we add the supplements, there are no deficiencies. This is the same kind of ingredients. And then it says you will need to add 5/8 of a tablet of B12, 1 1/8 tablet of zinc, some copper, an iron supplement, calcium. It looks like this is just a multivitamin that you could add, and then a different type of calcium here. So calcium carbonate versus calcium phosphate. So that's how you would balance it with a human supplement if you were against purchasing their supplement to feed. So one of the things that I very often will do is I will ask, like, what brand is your dog eating? And I will check to see, is there a nutritionist that actually balances that diet? Are they employed? Are they contracted? And then what kind of guaranteed analysis do they have as far as the micronutrients? So your macronutrients are your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats. But the micronutrients are important for like enzyme function. Many enzymes have vitamin cofactors or mineral cofactors. So, for example, the glutamate in the brain is the main excitatory neurotransmitter in the brain. And what that means is that it's the one that fires in order to get stimulation to different areas of the brain. It requires magnesium in order to dampen the excitatory response. And if we don't have magnesium, or we don't have enough magnesium in the brain, you might even have enough in the serum, but we don't know we're sure if it's at the level of the brain just because we take it from a blood sample, is whether or not that magnesium is functioning properly. These boutique diets, they might not understand all of the micronutrients that are not required, or in some instances the interaction that some of these ingredients that they're replacing for grains, that they're replacing, say, legumes with, so peas instead of using corn or wheat or soy products or even rice. If they're replacing those with the legumes, we don't know all of the information of what that does to taurine metabolism and use in the body, because we still see dogs with dilated cardiomyopathy who are being fed these grain-free diets. And I don't care what you guys have to say about that, I see it clinically. And when I contacted some of these brands and I said, hey, did you know that some of these diets are contributing to dilated cardiomyopathy? And the answer that I got from one of the manufacturers was, well, we let the consumer determine what's the best diet for their dog. And I don't believe in that. I think that is providing, it's just like relying on the pet store employees to sell those diets without all of the information that is out there on preventable conditions. And this is not new. Like this information has been out there for 5 years. So it's not a new concept. Now, zinc, I'm going to actually just kind of go through here because some people are seeing like, oh, there's some behavior issues with zinc. You can go to Google Scholar and you just type zinc deficiency dog behavior, and you're going to come up with some things like this one: behavioral impairments in animal models for zinc deficiency. So just sort of like looking at that information to see a serum, trace elements, and antioxidant levels in terrier dogs with or without behavior issues. So just sort of scroll through here because you're going to find some information on the micronutrients, effect of micronutrients on tail chasing in dogs. So I think that we really underestimate the fact that these micronutrients could be deficient in the diets that people are offering and that are being sold in pet stores and that are being pushed by these social media influencers, because I don't know that we're seeing an increase in behavior issues. What I'm seeing is more an increase in demand on what the dogs are being asked to do in a family scenario, instead of doing the job that they were initially evolved to do, and that is to alert their owners that there's dangers in the environment. I think we're just asking our dogs to do a lot more nowadays than we used to. So if you have any questions about that, Balance It. Actually, I'm going to go through one more. Balance It. We are going to go through, so we're going to go back to the main page. Now, when you have a dog with a health issue, so we're going to say like, Cola is say has we're gonna say dermatitis, so ectopic dermatitis. Here, we're gonna do this one. So we're gonna say that we're gonna pretend like Cola has ectopic dermatitis. We're gonna go here. So it's gonna say this, and then when you click the build recipe now, it's going to ask you to submit this information to your veterinarian. So here, and then when you go to click on view recipe, it's going to say veterinary request is needed. Now you can log in, you can create your own profile. When you go into this back information, you'll search for your veterinarian, and if your veterinarian is not in there, you're going to want to let them know that you want to use a particular recipe on there, and they're going to make sure that on the back end that on the medical condition that you've chosen is appropriate or the correct diagnosis for your pet, and making sure that the amount of calories is appropriate. accurate. So say, for example, if you're just like, well, I need my dog to gain a little bit more weight. I'm not saying that yours are going to be underweight, but there are people who are like, I just adopted this dog and this dog's emaciated and I need to put some weight on it. How am I going to do that? So then your veterinarian can calculate the amount of kilocalories that your dog should be eating in order to put on some muscle. So the other thing is that the recipes on this website are created by a board certified veterinary nutritionist. And so that person, you can certainly, or I guess it's people, you can certainly reach out to them directly and you can consult with them on how to build a diet for your particular pet. So this person, they will work with sick pets only. So if they have a medical condition and you're just like, or multiple medical conditions. So we might have a cat with, say, hyperthyroidism and kidney disease. Like, how am I going to feed this cat? Because each of those diseases has a different requirement of food. In-person appointments or remote. So lots of information here. Some of them are listing their consultation cost, minimum and maximum. So this would be like the base cost. I think this is probably like if there's going to be more complicated nutrition. But yeah, so all that information is listed on there. People in Europe, Canada and the US, Australia. I hope that's helpful. It's certainly meant to be helpful for you guys. And catch you later.